Well, I had a studio over at Fountain Street Studios, and that building closed down. We used to be about 70 artists in there, and then I heard of this building opening, and so when it was time to leave there, I got a studio. I've been here ever since this opened 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, I do like it, yeah, and there's air conditioning, which is important. So when I first was choosing going to college, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a writer or an artist, and then eventually I chose being an artist, and then I studied painting. I realized that painting was my thing, and so I have a degree in that, and also to be an art teacher. So when I first got my bachelor's degree, I painted big backdrops for theaters, scenery, and other things like TV and things.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was good, yeah. Well, a very long time ago, I worked on some costumes down in New York when Sting was on Broadway for the Three Penny Opera. The show did not do well, but I did work on some of the things from there. And also Boston Ballet, New England Flower Show, things like that. But that's when you would get a designer's image of what they wanted done, and then you have to color match and get the quality, the lines, the shapes, the feel of their design, and be able to duplicate it on a large scale. I was out in Worcester working at a theater that's not there anymore. I was the scenic artist for that theater, and then I saw an ad for an assistant teacher on weekends at the Worcester Art Museum. So I started doing that to pick up extra hours, and then I realized that I loved it and that I had a knack for working with the kids, and then I applied for a master's degree to become an art teacher, and actually that teacher was a reference for me to get into grad school, and I did get in. And
just one extra year? Or do you have to
it was 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years. Also Tufts.
Is it hard to find time with teaching and doing your own work?
It is hard to find time. I do sometimes wish I were here more, but in the summers I do work almost continuously, and then maybe 1 or 2 weekends a month I find time to come to the studio, and definitely during my winter and spring breaks I'm in the studio. Wellesley Society of Artists has show opportunities. I'm also a member of the Cambridge Art Association that has showing opportunities, and I do look for calls for art and try to get into other shows as well.
Competitions?
Yes, yep.
And do you ever sell your art?
I do sell my art, yep. All of it's for sale. Yeah. Sometimes in the process, the painting will lead me in a direction other than being representational or realistic, and I usually just follow the lead of what my intuition and the materials are trying to tell me what to do with it. I do realize that there is a common theme, though, even in the more abstracted art, which is circle shapes and flower type shapes, and sometimes moons and sun type shapes as well. So my twin daughters just graduated college, so it wasn't until they were like about 10 years old that I started painting again, because I was so busy before that. And then once they've been more independent adults, I've definitely had more time to leave the house and be able to paint.
Are they artists?
So yes, they're both definitely artistically gifted. They are scientists, however. Yeah, so one of them, the one that's a neuroscientist, she likes to work digitally, and the one that's an environmental scientist likes to paint oil paints, and she's a photorealistic oil painter, very good. And what inspires me is when I'm out in nature and there's bits of color, and sometimes it just looks perfect, just the arrangement of things. So I do a lot of photography first and get my compositions that way, and then in the process I think a lot of color exaggeration happens, and I get involved in texture and other things that maybe weren't there in the photograph, but it's what I'm compelled to do. These are both from the same photograph, the same scene, but just two different ways of viewing it, and the process led me in different directions. Again, it was from a photograph of a composition, just the way the light was hitting things just seemed perfect to me. So I got some pictures. And this one over here is an older painting that I wasn't liking. And so I've started to think of solutions of how I might like it better with color. So blocking off 3 separate areas and what colors made sense together. So I'm kind of a colorist, and I play with color, and my brain kind of tells me what color to add next. This was not from a photograph. Originally the flowers had been in a vase, and now it's kind of taking on a life of its own, and it's not done yet. I think that you don't have to necessarily be an artist, but if it's really what you love and it's your passion, then you should go for it. But I do believe that no matter who you are in this world, creativity is important. And if it's not going to be your profession, perhaps it can be your hobby. And by creativity, I don't necessarily mean painting. I mean perhaps flower arranging, or even the way you stack rocks outdoors in your yard. It's all an aesthetic way of thinking and a creative process for everyone.